Well, I think the prices are going to be going down already. I mean, the prices are way down. We've brought prices way down from what it was.
It really is a golden age, just right around the corner.
As soon as Donald Trump announced that he was officially doing the tariff nonsense, experts said this is going to be a calamity. This is going to put farmers, manufacturers, just the general public in great risk of financial ruin. And that is what we're seeing. So much so that Donald Trump is now going to bail out the farmers, providing them welfare from the federal government to counteract the deleterious effects of his own policies, using the money from tariffs to undo or try to mitigate some of the damage done by his tariffs. And this is all absolutely without doubt. There is no question at all why they're having problems. This headline that I've talked about from the New York Times several times, it really tells the story. China bought $12.6 billion in U.S. soybeans last year. Now it's zero. China stopped buying soybeans from America in May, placing a retaliatory tariff on the bumper crop after President Trump increased levies on goods from China. Remember that number, by the way, 12.6 billion. What a weird coincidence that the particular number that Donald Trump is going to give the farmers of America through a welfare program happens to be $12 billion. Here's Donald Trump announcing this new initiative for welfare. Apparently, welfare works in some cases. A social safety net is appropriate in some cases, especially when it's covering his own ass. Watch his announcement.
I'm delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real number is, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI. So what we're doing is we're taking a relatively small portion of that, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance. And we love our farmers, and as you know, the farmers like me, because based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money, Meryl. What do you think? Peanuts for you, though, right? Peanuts. She's a farmer of rice. This relief will provide much-needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops, and it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices for American families.
12 billion, says Donald Trump. How coincidental. How coincidental. Now, because Donald Trump is not intellectually equipped, he is not cognitively available to actually do any explaining at all relative to his policies, relative to the justification for this welfare handout to farmers. Brooke Rollins was available in the cabinet meeting, the Secretary of Agriculture, to explain what the justifications were for this. What were the causes of this needed injection of cash into farmers' bank accounts? And you'll never guess, it wasn't, according to her, because of the tariffs.
I mean, these are our people. Rural America is the fabric of our country. This is the
way of life that preserves the American dream for the next 250 years as we celebrate the first 250 years. So we began to go to work immediately. What these elected officials sitting across from us did with the One Big Beautiful Bill, with a lot of help and direction from you, was the largest investment in rural America in any of our lifetimes. We will begin to see that effectuated next year in 2026. As we have fought to bring input costs down, you have talked about, and even this weekend did an executive order, signed one, on looking into the reason that so much of these costs have been driven up over and over. Equipment, again, fertilizers.
We have to understand why that is, everybody. No, don't look over here at the tariffs. It couldn't be that. And in the middle of her droning on, trying to explain everything, Donald Trump inserts himself, making things worse, explaining in the most tone-deaf way that this money that we're giving to farmers is because of the tariffs. We're giving it out of the tariff money that we've collected, and we're going to give it to them. So everybody pays a tax on the goods that they've charged, that they've purchased, and then the government collects that tariff through all of those after-the-fact taxes, and then he's going to take that money, some of that money, and pay the people who make the most noise or that he can gain the most political capital from. Watch him explain.
Just know that this president, I have never been around anyone who every time we talk, he asks, how are my farmers? Every single time. So we will never stop fighting. We will make sure that we're doing everything we can to ensure the next 250 years is just as bright, if not brighter, than the last. So thank you, sir.
Brooke. Thank you. And this money would not be possible without tariffs. The tariffs are taking in, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're giving some up to the farmers because they were mistreated by other countries for, I don't know, maybe right reasons, maybe wrong reasons. They weren't. They were trying to show us something, and it's really worked out really well. But because of the tariffs, this is possible.
Now, look, that is ridiculous. Obviously, these monies, this $12 billion that was collected from tariffs is being paid to people who are being harmed by tariffs. Make it make sense. And all of this is being predicated at a time when prices are rising and will continue to rise as a direct result of the tariffs. And I've talked about this, but there seems to still be a disconnect between the language and the excuses and the lies and the propaganda that Donald Trump tells, disseminates, and the message that's coming from his cabinet. This particular case is pretty stark, where Donald Trump himself even slips up in the moment and says, well, yeah, prices are coming down. I mean, well, prices are already down. Everything's great. Everything's rosy. There's nothing to see here, except for the fact that they're in a meeting announcing that they have to pay $12 billion out of the tariff funds to farmers who are harmed by tariffs. It just does not resonate as true or compelling or real, except in the minds of people who are in the cult, people who are motivated to spread this narrative because it benefits the president of the United States, the dear leader, the chief cult information officer of the Trump cult. So here is him slipping up and saying, oh yeah, prices are low. Oh wait, no, they're gonna be, wait, no, they are low. He's just not sure.
Your team answered all of my questions on farming, but I do have
you have a farm question?
In the interest of affordability with this aid package, I assume that that's something you want consumers to see before midterms next year. How quickly will that affect prices at the grocery store?
Well, I think the prices are going to be going down already. I mean, the prices are way down. We brought prices way down from what it was. We inherited high prices. We inherited the biggest inflation in the history of our country. That means prices going up. And we brought it down very substantially. Now inflation is essentially gone. We have it normalized.
So they are gonna be low. No, they're low, but he's really not very sure about what the message is. So it's not surprising that his cabinet is also not on board, not on track with Donald Trump, because his message is one that is varied. It is not set in stone. There's not an official narrative from the administration. Brooke Rollins was on with Larry Kudlow on Fox News or Fox Business, one of the cheerleader networks for Donald Trump, where she's explaining that, look, the golden era, is that what it is? The golden, the golden age it's not here yet, but it's just right around the corner, which flies in the face of Donald Trump at every speech that he gives, saying that we are currently in the golden age of America, brought on by him and his tariff policies. Apparently that's not true. We're not in the golden age, but Brooke Rollins would love you to know that it's right around the corner. She can smell it.
Gas is down, lumber is down, eggs are down, Larry Kudlow. Really, everything is coming down. But we believe so sincerely. Listen, we're not tone deaf. We know that America, or a lot of Americans at least, are like, well, we're still not feeling the relief. The relief is coming. The structure is there. The one big beautiful bill, tax cuts go into effect. Costs are coming down. It really is a golden age just right around the corner. And I am so excited and so grateful as the president now moves out across the country next year to talk about it as we continue the work here in Washington to make sure it happens.
Berkey, one thing directly in your main, Madam Secretary.
Listen to all that anticipatory language. Really, everything is coming down. It's not down. Prices aren't down. The inflation hasn't been taken under control at all. It's coming down. But listen, we're not tone deaf, she says. You're not? We know a lot of Americans are like, well, we're still not feeling the relief. The relief is coming. It really is a golden age just right around the corner. Just wait for it, everybody. Just wait. Even though Donald Trump said not only would he end the war in Ukraine and Gaza within 24 hours of taking office, he would also get the economy back in shape. Prices would be fixed. Eggs, gas, energy in general, everything would be beautiful and wonderful, ushering in that golden age that she talked about. And that's just not the case, because Donald Trump has destroyed, in large measure, the American economy. That's going to take months, if not years, to gain back the reputation that we had on a world stage. It's going to have to take a lot of time to gain back the economy that we did have, the prices to kind of normalize after we get rid of the tariffs. That's what it's going to take. But Donald Trump is so dedicated to the prospect of this virtually ancient way to raise money before we had the system that we have in place now through the Treasury and taxation, that he's beholden to this idea of a 19th century, the 1800s of how to run the country. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this. If you're impacted by, well, of course you're impacted by this. You're an American. You're spending money in this economy. You know what's going on.
Hey, you treasonous traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog!
We are in precarious times in the United States. Obviously, that's not something that's news to you, but I want to start this off by talking about that. In the nation's capital, there's a church on Capitol Hill that is attended by Pete Hegseth and a cadre of Nazis, of white Christian nationalists. And the person who leads this church, or seeded, to use evangelical language, seeded this particular church, is Douglas Wilson, a man from my home state of Idaho. He runs a church, a white Christian nationalist church in Moscow, Idaho, where the University of Idaho is. And his church here in Washington, D.C., not only is attended by Pete Hegseth, but by an entire congregation of people who go there every Sunday. This church doesn't just espouse that their particular flavor of Christianity should rule your life, that the government should be run under the rules that they see fit based on their warped, twisted understanding of the preachings and the teachings and the philosophies of Jesus the Christ. They also believe that women should not be allowed to vote in the repeal of the 19th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Now, I've talked a lot about the ghouls at the Heritage Foundation. That's largely what makes up the congregation of this church. And I've talked about the difference in styles in activism in what we do. We need all kinds of people. This is instructive for you, I hope. We need dum-dums like me to do what I do. We need lawyers to bring cases. We need politicians to offer their support by the way of opposing or supporting legislation, writing laws. We also need activists on the ground who I'm sure have better things to do than go out on a Sunday morning / afternoon and talk to, harass, let it be known that there is opposition to the things they stand for. And I'm gonna play a video here, but I want to say this. Washington, D.C. is a minority city. Over 41% of this city is comprised of black people. Over 11% brown people. It is a city that is the racial makeup is of people who are in a group that has been traditionally oppressed, abused by the United States government. And the Heritage Foundation and Donald Trump and the white supremacist party that is the Republican Party. How many times have you heard me say it's the largest, most effective white supremacy organization on the planet? It's the Republican Party. It's not the KKK. That's an offshoot of the Republican Party. It's not some neo-Nazi movement. It is the Republican Party. And speaking of different styles, I have with me a video that I'm going to play for you of someone who goes out on Sundays, among other days, and tells these people, just informs them, we know who you are. You should not feel comfortable in polite company. This is William Kelly at DeWoke Farmer on Instagram. And this is the energy I think we need more of, not less of, in calling out Nazis to their faces, people who endeavor to take suffrage away from women, people who want to put the weight of their boot on the neck of black and brown people in this country, who want to bring back white supremacy under color of law openly, nakedly in the United States. So when you see people screaming in the face of these church parishioners, it should not make you feel uncomfortable. You should feel grateful that there's someone out there in your stead to do it. Because these people, what's the turn of phrase? I don't know if they shouldn't feel safe, but they shouldn't feel comfortable walking the streets of the nation's capital, going to a church to learn about the philosophies, to remove women from the electorate, to oppress and suppress the vote of black and brown people in this country. They should not, at the very least, feel comfortable. And that's exactly what this individual does. Watch this video, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
You're such a Nazi little bitch. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you think you can just destroy our nation? Why do you think you can bring back white supremacy? Why do you think you're better than everybody else? What the fuck is wrong with you assholes? Oh, it's funny, fucking Nazi piece of shit. What are you worshiping? You're fucking taking fucking whiskey shots with Hezgath. Be honest. Look at it. He laughed. He laughed because he knows it's true. You guys aren't fucking worshiping. Look at this bitch ass. You're worshiping. Look at this fucking little bitch ass little American pin. Look at this little bitch ass kid. Look at him.
They're asking if you could just move on.
Yes. Yeah, move on, you punk ass bitch. You will be judged not by a god, but by a court of law, you fucking Nazi fuck. You can't tell me to stop. This is the sidewalk. This is the First Amendment. You are preventing my First Amendment rights. I am protesting. You are preventing me from practicing my First Amendment rights. You are violating the Constitution. You little bitch ass. What's your fucking excuse? I'm not near him.
You don't have to be that close.
Look at this little bitch putting his hands on me. Little punk ass bitch. All right, what's your fucking excuse? Why do you fucking go to a church that preaches? No, we know. What about the nationalism? What about the Christian nationalism? What is it about?
Is that all you got to say?
No, what is it about?
That's all you got to say.
What is it about, asshole?
I don't need to discuss.
See, you won't defend yourself because you're a punk ass little bitch fucking Nazi. Fuck you, you fucking Nazi fucking piece of shit. Shame on you. You think you're fucking superior than people? You ain't shit, bitch. You ain't fucking shit. You ain't nothing but a fucking cowardly fucking traitor. Look at these spineless little bitches.
Look, I know that I've talked about the different styles of people that we need out there. I've talked to Ro Khanna about it. I've talked to Cory Booker. I've talked to politicians to their faces about that it's necessary for there to be people like me who are a little bombastic. So when I watch that video, It brings me joy. It brings me comfort that there's someone who's willing to sacrifice of their time, of their day, of their life to go out there in service, in opposition to fascism and fascists. It's not a turn of phrase to call these people fascists. It's not just a cute, politically expedient in the moment that we live in. They are fascists. They support fascist policies. That's why I am very pleased to have joined me today William Kelly at DeWoke Farmer on Instagram and elsewhere. We'll get to that. William, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here.
So I've already played a clip, obviously, of your work. What you do out there here in the city, I think, is fantastic. It brings me, and I probably shouldn't speak for Brittany Page, but it brings both of us great joy to watch your efforts out there. Let me start with this. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're a veteran. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what animated you to endeavor this type of activism.
Well, to start out, I'm a combat infantry veteran. I served back in Iraq during the surge in 2007. And I'm frustrated with Donald Trump's administration. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in a nation for all people, no matter their skin color or their sexuality or anything like that. And so I got tired of yelling at bots on Instagram. So I went to the second No Kings protest in D.C. And I'm not going to lie, I have PTSD. I'm a country guy. I was scared. I was not wanting to go, but I showed up and I met with, the guys that Remember Your Oath, and they were amazing and they really inspired me. I realized that there's some veterans I can be, with my allies there. And I got pumped up and I've been there every single day. I think I've taken one day off since.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to play the audience. Spoiler alert, you're going to get to watch William here to the face of Pete Hegseth, call him a coward and a traitor and a criminal. So gear yourself up for that. But let me ask you, because I talk a lot on YouTube about there being different styles. Even in my cohort of content creators, and you know this, I mean, it's a different ecosystem on Instagram than it is YouTube. But you got buddies of mine like David Packman or Farron Cousins, and they just have a different style than me. I'm more bombastic. I don't shy away from calling these fuckers names. And I love that is also you. What has been your experience with, how typically do these people react when you call them a fascist to their face? What's kind of the normal average response?
I'll be honest, most of the time they have a look of fear in their face and they keep moving. Some of them will interact and try to be funny or, with a laughy face or something like that. But none of them are really come and defend themselves, even though I often ask, hey, defend what you're doing to this nation. I have yet to have any of them, come up and have a spine and stand up for what they're doing.
Yeah, I had the same. I was on a plane to Japan in October, and seated across from me and in front of me was one of Pete Hegseth's press secretaries, doing her very sensitive work in the open as loudly and as ostentatiously as she could. And we had a back and forth, and I called her a fascist, and she seemed shocked by the prospect that anyone would consider her a fascist. What are you kind of gunning for here? What do you hope to achieve through what I believe to be pretty noble efforts?
I mean, my main mission is to agitate, educate, and organize. But as you see on my Instagram, my main goal as far as agitation is, I really want to break the narrative that these, what I like to call Timu fascists, I'd like to break the narrative of their strength. They are weak. There's more of us than there are of them. And I want to encourage more people to get up in their faces and stand up against them. I want to use the First Amendment before the Republic is completely destroyed so that we can avoid using the Second Amendment.
Yeah. I'm going to play this clip of you. This is from your Instagram account. I would encourage everybody to go follow William on Instagram, but also watch this when Pete Hegseth comes out of his white Christian nationalist church that advocates for the repeal of the 19th Amendment of the Constitution and for the oppression of gay and trans people, of the oppression and suppression of the vote of black people in this country. Watch William get his moment to actually say it to the face of Pete Hegseth.
Hey, you treasonous traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog! You cowardly, treasonous murderer! Shame on you, you traitor! Shame on you, you coward! Traitor! You shitbag! You can't even do a pull-up, you drunk! You treasonous traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog! You cowardly, treasonous murderer! Shame on you, traitor! Shame on you, coward! Traitor! You shitbag! You can't even do a pull-up, you drunk dog! You traitorous dog! Hey, learn how to do a pull-up, you bitch-ass traitor! You can't even do a pull-up and you think you're an alpha male? Fuck you, nonsense!
So, one, that had to feel good, right? You're finally at the church of, you're there every Sunday. This is on Capitol Hill, I believe on Pennsylvania Avenue, right?
Yes, right down the
and
street.
So
from
you're
Capitol.
face to face with Pete Hegseth, and you get the opportunity to say it. And let me tell you, your voice is just, it's got to be, there's no other voice that could be doing this better through the bullhorn. And you see the coward across the street with fear in his eyes, hearing what you're saying. So cowardly, I don't know if you clocked this, and I don't know if the audience clocked it, but he sends his wife
around
to the crowd side of the vehicle to get in. He can't even do it himself. He's that much of a coward. What did it feel like?
For one, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I go to his church almost every Sunday, and I miss him every time. So this was, a long time coming. But yeah, I was disappointed, to be honest. Someone calling them the Secretary of War, or the God of War, and all this, bravado and alpha talk. I thought he would have. He knows who I am. I thought he would come, say something, but instead he had his wife go around and had his security taking photos of me. So, maybe he could check my service record later or something. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, I've been out there at the Heritage Foundation on Mondays a couple times, and I freely give my name. You don't have to look me up. I'll tell you who I am, where to find me. I'm not afraid of you. And I think this is the energy that we need to really be modeling good behavior for people, that they too don't have to just be at home. If they don't have money to contribute to campaigns or movements or nonprofits, if they have any time at all, they can get out there, and they don't have to be a William Kelly out there. They don't have to be a Jesse Dollemore, as bombastic or as aggressive, but just having a body on the scene to show to these people that there is a section of the country that disapproves, I think is important. Do you agree with that?
I think that even if you just go down to your local, market area and stand there with a flag, that just shows people that, they're not alone, like especially in the deep red areas of our nation. It's really important. That's the most important, in fact. People need to know that others are standing up, and just go out there with a flag, and other people will join you as they continue to join me.
Well, until there's just a panoply of individuals out there, I really want to say that I do appreciate your work. I think it is important. I think it is critical in this moment, in this terrifying moment in American history. There's all kinds of things I assume you could be doing other than going out to Pete Hegseth's church to protest them. And I think you need to be supported in this work. I see that you have a GoFundMe, and I believe I saw a Cash App. If we have links to those, we'll put those up on screen right now. I would encourage everybody, if you got a buck or two, forego whatever you might send to me to support my work and help William out. It's important, and I think it needs to be normalized that these people are called Nazis, are called fascists, are called criminals, war criminals, murderers, because that is exactly who they are. And look, I'm sure you get a little bit of love and juiced up on Instagram, but I want to say face to face to you that I very much appreciate what you're doing. I think it's patriotic to the nth degree, and we need more people like you, William.
I really appreciate your support, and I appreciate what you do as well. You're getting the truth out there, and my dad's a fan, so it's really an honor to be here, and I really thank you for having me.
Well, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, Instagram, DeWoke Farmer, D-A, Woke Farmer, all one word. I'm also same username on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, but I'm mostly interacting on Instagram.
Well, go out there if you have an account on any one of those platforms and support this. I hesitate to call you a creator because it just seems like you're kicking ass and doing good activism, but go support this guy. He's doing stellar work, and we need more of this from more people. William, Kelly, thank you for joining me, and maybe we'll have you back another time.
Thank you so much. And I just want to let people know also, please go to rememberyouroath.org and support our efforts in, standing up against this illegal occupation of D.C. by the National Guard and other federal forces.
Absolutely. This is bank fraud. This is what they're alleging. Mortgage fraud is obtaining a loan under fraudulent circumstances, but he wants to punish everyone else for the thing he himself is guilty of. Ding, 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 ding. I wish I had a bell, like a hypocrisy bell. Maybe I need to get myself a bell, even just like a ding, just a hypocrisy bell for the desk. Donald Trump has been weaponizing the government and his Department of Justice against several individuals. And the only crime that they can drum up that ends up being fake anyway is mortgage fraud. James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, Eric Swalwell. There's been a host of people that Donald Trump is accusing of mortgage fraud. Would you be surprised at all to learn that Donald Trump, he himself, is guilty of mortgage fraud, of doing the same thing, actually not even the same thing, worse cases of mortgage fraud that Donald Trump is guilty of in past years, buying multiple homes and saying that those homes are his primary residence that are in Florida when he actually lived in New York City. It won't be shocking to you to learn that, right? That is why I am very thankful for outlets like ProPublica to give us the proof, the evidence of the thing that we probably could have said, yeah, that's probably true. But now we know it's true. This headline should send shudders down the spines of every fascist in this administration because it means they cannot hide from the things they're accusing others of, which they can't even secure indictments over because it's such bullshit. This is from ProPublica. Trump's own mortgages match his description of mortgage fraud, records reveal. The Trump administration has argued that Fed board member Lisa Cook may have committed mortgage fraud by declaring more than one primary residence on her loans. We found Trump once did the very thing he called, quote, deceitful and potentially criminal. This is why when there's an outlet like, for instance, ProPublica, if you have an extra few dollars, you should support this organization. They are truly independent. They are not a corporate-owned entity. They're not a tributary of CBS News or some other nonsense. They are independent, and they break amazing stories all the time with ferocity. For months, the Trump administration has been accusing its political enemies of mortgage fraud for claiming more than one primary residence. President Donald Trump branded one foe who did so, quote, deceitful and potentially criminal. He called another crooked on Truth Social and pushed the attorney general to take action. But years earlier, Trump did the very thing he's accusing his enemies of, records show. Now, this is a very lengthy article that goes into great detail about all of this. I will link it below. I would suggest you read every single word to make yourself in full understanding of what we're talking about. I'm only going to read a few paragraphs to give you kind of the broad strokes, but do go and read this on ProPublica. Do support ProPublica if you have it within your financial means, because it's important. Here's the lay of the land here. Trump bought the two homes, which both sit on Woodbridge Road, directly north of Mar-a-Lago, and got mortgages in quick succession in December of 1993 and January 1994. The lender on both mortgages, one for $525,000 and one for $1.2 million, was Merrill Lynch, which is now owned, for your edification, I learned in the article, is now owned by Bank of America. Each of the mortgage documents signed by Trump contain the standard occupancy requirement that he must make the property his principal residence within 60 days and live there for at least a year. unless the lender agrees otherwise or there were extenuating circumstances. But ProPublica could not find evidence Trump ever lived in either of the properties. Legal documents and federal election records from the period give his address as Trump Tower in Manhattan. Trump would officially change his permanent residence to Florida only decades later in 2019. A Vanity Fair profile published in March 1994 describes Trump spending time in Manhattan and at Mar-a-Lago itself. Now, you might ask yourself, and I think it's the natural question to ask, how does this exactly line up with the accusations against Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, and Lisa Cook, who's on the board of the Federal Reserve? How is it that what he did lines up against what he's accused them of doing? Well, you might be happy to know that I'm going to tell you. Here's how it lines up with Letitia James' case. A central claim in the case that the Trump Justice Department brought against her is that she purchased a house in Virginia, pledging to her lender that it would serve as her second home, then proceeded to use it as an investment property and rent it out. Quote, "This misrepresentation allowed James to obtain favorable loans not available for investment properties," according to the indictment. Trump's Florida mortgage agreements appear to have made a more significant misrepresentation. So it's not comparable, it's actually worse. Donald Trump did a worse thing than the crime that he's alleging that Letitia James committed, that he can't even secure an indictment on. Again, for your edification, Trump's Florida mortgage agreements appear to have made a more significant misrepresentation, as he claimed those homes would be his primary residence, not his secondary home, as James did before proceeding to rent them out. So he didn't say, oh yeah, it's a secondary home, and then it was an investment, which I'm not even sure of those details because we can't believe anything Donald Trump or his DOJ alleges. He said they would both be his primary residence, while even Mar-a-Lago wasn't his primary residence. It was Trump Tower in New York City. Now, Lisa Cook, on the other hand, little bit of different situation. This is how it lines up with Donald Trump's situation. The circumstances around Trump's mortgages are also similar to the case his administration has made against Lisa Cook, a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Trump declared he was firing Cook earlier this year over her mortgages, as he has sought to bend the traditionally independent agency to his will and force it to lower interest rates. Cook, who denied wrongdoing, has sued to block the termination and continues to serve on the Fed board as the legal fight continues. In a letter to Cook, Trump specifically noted that she signed 2 primary residence mortgages within weeks of each other, just as records show he did in Florida. He called the loans potentially criminal and wrote, at a minimum, this is what Donald Trump wrote about Lisa Cook, at a minimum, the conduct at issue exhibits the sort of gross negligence in financial transactions that calls into question your competence and trustworthiness. So, Donald Trump, guilty of the exact same thing he's accusing someone else of, by his own logic, by his own reasoning, by his own estimation, we should be calling into question his competence and trustworthiness. And they brought receipts. They've got copies of mortgage papers. There are 2 that are included in this particular article, but let me tell you, there's gonna be more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And let me also tell you, my estimation, my prediction would be, it's not just these 2 houses. It's going to be others. There's going to be all kinds of others that Donald Trump fraudulently lied about. This is bank fraud. This is what they're alleging. Mortgage fraud is obtaining a loan under fraudulent circumstances. But he wants to punish everyone else for the thing he himself is guilty of. Now, this is beyond the statute of limitations. He can't be prosecuted for this anymore, and he wouldn't be anyway because the Supreme Court saw fit to grant him wild, insane, unprecedented immunity as president of the United States. But one more feather in the hypocrisy cap. Bing! Ding, 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 ding. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Go read this article. I very much encourage you to do so and to support ProPublica.
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was
You're
up
the
to
most
Secretary Hicks.
obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, actually a terrible reporter. And it's always the same thing with you.
You know, there's a lot of talk right now about Mike Johnson. Every time he's asked a question about something he doesn't want to talk about, he just says, oh, I don't know about that. I haven't been watching the news. I'm too busy to know about all of the breaking news headlines that surround Donald Trump's corruption and his mishandling of the country and the presidency itself. Well, I think he might get that from Donald Trump because he wants it all the ways. Donald Trump wants to be looked at as a vastly knowledgeable. We'll get to that. But just a man who has a stranglehold on reality and the facts and knowledge and expertise about everything. He's the commander in chief. He's a strong man. He's powerful. No one makes decisions without him knowing until there's a scandal. And then it's like, I don't know about that. Oh, yeah, it's hard for me to say. I'm leaving that up to them as he tries to throw people under the bus. And this has been no more stark than related to the illegal, the war crimes, the murder, the premeditated murder of individuals on fishing boats that Donald Trump alleges are drug boats in the ocean. A second strike where non-combatants were clinging to life on a boat, and then they were ordered from Pete Hegseth's orders, kill them all. And then they were summarily executed on the high seas. Well, I got a few clips here. One is he's lying about the release. He said just last week he wants to release. I talked about this. I think the thumbnail was something about white supremacy clown car in the Oval Office. That particular video shows this clip where he agrees, yeah, we'll release it. It was in that meeting. We will release the tapes. And now he's saying, I never said that. That's fake news. But the other thing that just broke today is an interview with Politico with Dasha Burns, who is spotty. Sometimes does a good job, sometimes not. I guess that's everybody, right? And she's asking him questions about Europe. And I want to set the stage with this particular clip where he tells Dasha Burns about, literally, he says, I'm supposed to be a very smart person. I have eyes. I have ears. I have knowledge. I have vast knowledge. And it's that vast knowledge that very quickly withers on the vine and falls away when he's asked tough questions about issues that could bring disrepute to him or even indictment and prosecution because of the murder of individuals on the high seas and the war crime, even if we take his account that it's a battle against terrorists. Watch him explain his vast knowledge.
But he thinks the changes that you're making and what you laid out in your vision for Europe is what Moscow wants to see.
I have no vision for Europe. All I want to see is a strong Europe. Look, I have a vision for the United States, America first. It's make America great again. I do explain to Europe because I think, I'm supposed to be a very smart person. I have eyes. I have ears. I have knowledge. I have vast knowledge. I see what's happening. I get reports that you will never see. And I think it's horrible what's happening to Europe. I think it's endangering Europe as we know it. Europe could be a whole different place.
Your impact.
And I think the European people should do something about it.
You heard it here, folks. Vast knowledge. I got a brain. I got the best words. He's just so smart, so brilliant, so genius. Until, again, he's asked questions that put him in a tight spot, like this about the boat strikes.
Have you watched the video?
He was stopping. I watched everything, yeah. I watch everything. I see a lot of things.
And do you believe that that second
pretty,
strike was necessary?
Well, it looked like they were trying to turn back over the boat, but I don't get involved in that. That's up to them.
I don't get involved in that. That's up to them. Says the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States of America. A man who acts like he's got his finger on every single button within the administration. Until there's scandal, and he wants to throw somebody under the bus. And this is all predicated on this ongoing controversy, this ongoing questioning of the administration about the murder, the premeditated murder of people who were provided no due process. We only have the word of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, and we know how fucking good that is, how good their word is. That is to say, not good, right? So here is Donald Trump explaining that he doesn't have any problem releasing the video to show to the American people so we can make up our own mind about whether it was a war crime, about whether it was murder. He said, no problem. This was last week.
I've never heard of it. Very good. We never heard of it. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem. You know, we stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right.
And
I don't know what they have, but we'd certainly release. That's what he said last week. Asked again yesterday by Rachel Scott, apparently the same reporter who does good work, by the way. He says, I didn't say that. I never said that. Oh, this is ABC fake news. I never said that. That's totally fake news. This should be a window in, even for MAGA people, that when Donald Trump denies something or calls something fake news, he's a liar. You just witnessed him say, yes, I don't know what's on him, but we'd release him. And then when asked about him saying that, he says, I never said that. That's a lie.
Mr. President, you said that you would have Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says.
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
You said that you would have no problem releasing the full bit. Okay, well, Secretary Hegseth.
Whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
He now says it's under review. Are you ordering the secretary to release that full video?
Whatever he decides is okay with me. So every boat we knock out of the water, every boat, we save 25,000 American lives. That was a boat loaded up with drugs. I saw the video. They were trying to turn the boat back to where it could float. And we didn't want to see that because that boat was loaded up with drugs just like everything else. But every boat we shoot down, and I don't know if you know, we're 92 or 94% down in drugs coming in by the sea. And we're trying to find who are the 6%. Because I don't know, people aren't liking to drive boats right now loaded up with drugs. But every single, think of that, every single boat we shoot out, on average, we save 25,000 American lives. Do you feel okay about that, Court?
Keep us safe.
Okay, I know my man. What about you? Are you okay with that?
I'm totally fine with
Are
that.
you committed to releasing the full video?
One, he's asking farmers, ostensibly, people who are not cabinet members or have the requisite understanding of the intelligence necessary to make decisions about, is that okay with you if we murder people on the high seas? Is that okay with you? Oh, my men. Oh, how about my ladies? But he's a liar, as evidenced by what we just witnessed. And the clip continues, by the way. We'll back it up and then start it again so you can know exactly where we are in the clip. But Rachel Scott then begins to press him on the release of the tape. And he instead, because he's given his answer, his nonsense lie, that wasn't good enough for an actual reporter who wants an answer to the question, he starts attacking her, calling her obnoxious. It's always a woman who he attacks like this. And he gets extra juice out of attacking black women. Watch this.
Are you committed to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was
You're
up
the
to
most
Secretary Hegseth.
obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, a terrible reporter. And it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
So anybody who's going to try to endeavor to do their job is a terrible reporter, is terrible at their job. If you ask a sycophantic bootlick question about the Fedsurrection, which is something that happened yesterday with one of these new media idiots who are just MAGA cult members, setting didn't even ask a question, just made a statement, and Donald Trump referenced it as that. Oh, that's not really a question, it's a statement. But thank you for that, thank you for that. That, for him, is a good reporter, is a intrepid seeker of the truth, to tee Donald Trump up to give his propaganda. But when you actually ask a hard question that he should be forced to answer, because he, after all, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, a constitutional representative of the people, he attacks the journalist. He attacks the free and fair press, ultimately, by extension, attacking the First Amendment itself. This is what we got, folks. What do you think? I invite you to have a conversation in the comments about this. We can also have you call the voicemail line and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I appreciate you very much. If you appreciate me, if I am your vibe, if you like the cut of my jib, or name a turn of phrase, if I'm your guy and I bring you value, please consider supporting this work. On Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. On YouTube, you can click the join button on my channel or below the video where you're watching it. And for $2 a month on either side, you can support this work and help produce these videos, helping me reach the millions of people that I do every month. But these people they were brought up into adulthood in politics under Donald Trump, thinking that this is just how the government works, having zero understanding of the same Constitution to which they swore an oath to support and defend. I wish I could play taps, although taps is usually for somebody who's died. I don't even think that's taps. I would play taps for Alina Habba, is what I'd be doing. I'm going to read this statement to you that was posted on Twitter, the official way to resign your position. Alina Habba is no longer the U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. She was forced after a appeals court panel, unanimously 3 judges in a federal court, said, nope, you are not serving appropriately. You have not been appointed legally to your position. You are unlawfully in the role, and she is now forced to leave. I'm going to read this bananas statement, again, posted to Twitter, and then we're going to talk about her role in the administration and where she's headed. This is, again, on Twitter, statement from Alina Habba, acting U.S. Attorney and Special Attorney to the United States Attorney General. For the past 5 years, I've fought for justice on behalf of the American people. You have? For the past 5 years? For justice for the American people? Because for the past 5 years, most of that time, you've been Donald Trump's attorney, his personal criminal attorney in the many cases. In fact, in the cases you were involved, Donald Trump lost. Donald Trump was convicted. You, madam, are a loser of a lawyer, a loser of a human being. The only thing you're good at is being a Donald Trump bootlick. For the past 5 years, I fought for justice on behalf of the American people, and my tenure under our great Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Tom Blatch, we made New Jersey safer by arresting United States Congress members, by arresting mayors of Newark, New Jersey. That made people safe, Alina? Come on. There's not going to be this much commentary. I'll just read through it. Camden had its first murder-free summer in 50 years. We drove down crime, took violent offenders off the streets, caught terrorists, and put away child predators. You're working for a child predator, sister. While I was focused on delivering real results, judges in my state, federal judges, a 3-paneled appeals court, judges in my state took advantage of the flawed blue slip tradition and became weapons for the politicized left, For months, these judges stopped conducting trials and entering sentences. There were no trials for months. These judges stopped all trials. Criminals just running amok in New Jersey, according to liar Alina Habba. For months, these judges stopped conducting trials and entering sentences, leaving violent criminals on the street. They joined New Jersey senators who care more about fighting President Trump than the well-being of residents which they serve. For years, I fought against lawfare aimed at President Trump, against politics infecting our justice system. What these obstructionists misunderstood is that my loyalty is not to politics, a title, or a zip code. It is to this great country. Who believes this shit? As a result of the Third Circuit's ruling, and to protect the stability and integrity of the office, which I love, you would have left right away if that was the case. I have decided to step down in my role as the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, but do not mistake compliance for surrender. This decision will not weaken the Justice Department, and it will not weaken me. My fight will now stretch across the country as we wait for further review of the court's ruling. I will continue to serve as the Department of Justice, as the senior advisor to the Attorney General for U.S. attorneys. Someone who was unlawfully in her role is now going to advise the Attorney General about the role she just left after having been forced out because she was unlawfully appointed. Makes tons of sense. And then she ends it with, make no mistake, these fucking people with the overwrought drama, make no mistake, you can take the girl out of New Jersey, but you can't take New Jersey out of the girl. It is amazing reading that resignation letter. She's now out of a job, out of that particular job, knowing that this summer, or when the government shutdown was happening, she said this about veterans not being fit, military veterans, not fit for a job, and that's why it was okay to fire American military veterans from their jobs.
Starting to think about maybe some of those veterans who worked for the federal government and maybe what the administration can do to at least help salvage their lives?
Well, as you know, we care about veterans tremendously. I mean, that's something the president has always cared about. Anybody in blue, anybody that serves this country. But at the same time, we have taxpayer dollars. We have a fiscal responsibility to use taxpayer dollars to pay people that actually work. That doesn't mean that we forget our veterans by any means. We are going to care for them in the right way, but perhaps they're not fit to have a job at this moment or not willing to come to work. And we can't, I wouldn't take money from you and pay somebody and say, sorry, they're not going to come to work. It's just not acceptable.
Or how about this? The U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey saying that Donald Trump as president is the ultimate authority in the federal government.
Separation of powers. It's a really novel idea, but our founding fathers created a document, the Constitution. There's a separation of powers for a reason. The executive branch is the ultimate authority on federal issues, and we have rogue judges who are trying to stop members like Doge team, Besant, from doing their job. And that's to protect taxpayer dollars, to look at what we're doing with spending, and to run the federal government under President Trump.
This is just a misunderstanding, to be as fair and charitable as I can to these statements. A misunderstanding. Donald Trump, in no world, under any law or article of the Constitution, is the ultimate authority on anything. That statement in and of itself disregards the checks and balance system that we have that has been enshrined by our forebearers who wrote the Constitution, who designed the Constitution. The Congress isn't the ultimate authority because the president and the judiciary both have checks over the Congress. The president isn't the ultimate authority because the Congress and the judiciary have checks over that branch. The judiciary isn't the ultimate authority because there are checks on it. It is a partnership in governance. And these people who believe Donald Trump is some kind of a king, including this woman who purports to be qualified to be a U.S. attorney, she claims it. Now, I'm going to end with this. This was her in the portico of the White House announcing her appointment, discussing her appointment, her illegal appointment to this position just a few months ago.
Good morning. I'm sure you've seen President Trump has just put out a statement that he has appointed me as the interim U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey, my home state. As you know, I've stood by President Trump, his family, the organization, and many other clients in that state where I've been born and raised, and I'm raising my babies now. But there is corruption, there is injustice, and there is a heavy amount of crime right in Cory Booker's backyard and right under Governor Murphy, and that will stop. I look forward to working with Pam Bondi and with the Department of Justice and making sure that we further the president's agenda of putting America first, cleaning up mess, and going after the people that we should be going after, not the people that are falsely accused. That will stop in the great state of New Jersey starting now. Thank you so much.
Who are the people that you want to go after?
We'll see when I get in there. We got to see what's going in. I know you'd love that narrative. Let me be very clear. Paul, I didn't actually. Correct, because I think Cory Booker and Governor Murphy have failed the state of New Jersey. If you look at what happened in crime, what's going on in Newark, what's going on in Camden, this has been a neglected state. It is one of the most populated states for its size, and it needs to stop. We're going to do a bang-up job. I cannot wait. It's a great honor. How long is your appointment for? Thank you very much. How long?
That was arrogance, is what that was. That was arrogantly announcing, signaling at the very least that she would be Donald Trump's weapon against Democrats. The way she's speaking isn't the way U.S. attorneys should be speaking. They should be dispassionate arbiters of justice, bringing cases where they can secure prosecutions, where the evidence leads them, not in a predetermined manner of who they're going to go after, who the enemy is, and it's always Democrats. But these people they were brought up into adulthood in politics under Donald Trump, thinking that this is just how the government works, having zero understanding of the same Constitution to which they swore an oath to support and defend. It is disloyalty to the country. It's disloyalty to their solemn vow, their oath to that Constitution. It's disloyalty to we the people. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line and get your voice telephonically on the record, huh? What do you think? 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Say it with me. Take care of one another.
This is your Peace Prize. There is also a beautiful medal for you that you can wear everywhere you want to go. Fantastic.
That is our president. Yoink. Welcome to the Dollemore Daily. I am the aforementioned Jesse Dollemore, who happens to feel like a big bag of smashed assholes. You ever feel like that? You just wake up, a little pukey, a little not feeling great. I can always take solace in the fact that no matter how bad I feel, it'll never be as bad as Donald Trump feels. Maybe my body set me up for that segue right now. Donald Trump is an insecure weakling. Just his ego drives him based on the fact that he was either hugged too much or not enough by his dad. Too much by his mom, not enough by his dad. These are things I say all the time. But this weekend, it was put on display like maybe no other weekend or set of days that we've ever experienced with Donald Trump. When he was at the FIFA award, they created a peace prize for Donald Trump. We know he's obsessed with the peace prize. And then later in the weekend, yesterday, they filmed the Kennedy Center honors that he hosted, like he's a late night host or a comedian who hosts an award show. And there was a red carpet. They filmed this for broadcast later. It's a CBS production. CBS now, Donald Trump's, he directs it. Essentially, he's the president of the network. So let's begin with this session of mockery of Donald Trump, where they created an award because he feels bad, because he wants the Nobel Peace Prize so badly, that the international body that regulates and organizes soccer on the world stage, football, it's called everywhere else, they created a peace prize for him. And it's not just the creation of the peace prize and the presentation of it, it's watching Donald Trump accept it and yoink, he yoinks out of the box. And if there ever was a metaphor for what we're going through right now and exactly who Donald Trump is and what he is, it is Donald Trump putting the medal on that was created for him about the thing that he's angry about not receiving, the actual peace prize. So this is like if Major League Baseball created a peace prize for whatever reason outside of the purview of baseball, or the NBA's annual peace prize, or name another one. The National Federation of Chess Players, we have a peace prize. Watch Donald Trump gleefully, without any sense of irony or shame or dignity, accept the award and present it to himself.
Please welcome the very first winner of the FIFA Peace Prize, the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Please. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is your prize. This is your Peace Prize. There is also a beautiful medal for you that you can wear everywhere you want to go.
I'm going to wear it right now.
Okay, let me hold. Fantastic. Excellent.
That is our president. Yoink. And then yesterday, I think this was yesterday, again, the day is kind of run together. We're not feeling great. He was out on the red carpet here in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center, where they're peppering him questions. Now, there's at one point, I don't have the clip here, but there was one point. Actually, I'm going to find the clip. Let me write it down. I'll find the clip. A reporter asks him, hey, I want to ask you a foreign policy question. He goes, no, not right now. I don't want that. First of all, you don't ask which questions you can ask if you're an actual journalist. I don't know what the hell was going on here, but this kind of sets the tone for what we're in store for the rest of the things I'm going to talk about.
So that would be up to the board. Thank you.
Are you willing to take a foreign policy question?
Say it?
Foreign policy question?
Well, I think maybe not tonight.
Russia, Ukraine?
This is about the Kennedy Center. Okay, thank you.
Asking permission to ask a foreign policy question? What's next? Sir, Your Highness, Your Excellency, who are you wearing, sir? What is the label on your tuxedo? Just absolute nonsense. And this entire thing is an exercise in boosting the ego and the self-esteem of Donald Trump, who apparently, being president of the United States, doesn't do well for his self-esteem. It doesn't cure all that ails him psychologically, because there's talk about renaming the actual Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center, which I think it'll likely just be changed to Trump. Here he is addressing that question. And you know, when Donald Trump says, I don't have authority over that, I don't have the power to do that, you know what's coming.
So we're very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Do you think, Mr. President,
what do you think of the Netflix Warner Brothers deal?
Trump Kennedy Center, Mr. President, do you think the center will eventually be named the Trump Kennedy Center?
I don't know. I hear that, but I don't know. That's not up to me. That's up to the board. The board makes that decision. We have a very prestigious board. If you look at the names, I don't think there's a board like it. So that would be up to the board. Thank you.
All of this is sycophancy. All of this is a session of bootlick of Donald Trump, or worse, wherever they can cram their tongue. Brian Stelter talked about this in an article. I believe Brian Stelter wrote this article from CNN, talking about how now board meetings for the Kennedy Center are more like a cabinet meeting where they go around the horn kissing Donald Trump's ass. This is one paragraph from the CNN article. Board meetings, one attendee says, now mirror Trump cabinet meetings where members go around the room to, quote, talk about how great and visionary the president is and how he has so much class and taste. And since he is, remember, he ensured that he was the one to host the Kennedy Center honors, which no president has ever done because it's not what they do. Other presidents have more important and pressing things on their plate than hosting an award show for celebrities. Not in Donald Trump's mind. That's chief among his priorities. That and the gold-encrusted $350 million 1,000-seat ballroom. This is, can you imagine, Donald? Oh, sir, Can you imagine receiving the Kennedy Center Award? And he says he's going to nominate himself for the said award next year.
Imagine, Mr. President, and now we know that you've hosted before, The Apprentice, for many years. Could you imagine next year maybe you're not hosting, but maybe you receiving a Kennedy Center honor?
That's an interesting one. I haven't thought of that. Yeah, I think I'm going to nominate myself for next year.
Mr. President, every day you have such a big job.
And if this is not enough bootlick to have you regurgitate your breakfast or lunch or whatever meal you just had, here is Donald Trump being peppered with the most important questions of our day, such as, what did you do to prepare to host the award show for celebrities like Sylvester Stallone and Kiss? Watch this.
Mr. President, how do you prepare for hosting this year's Kennedy Center honors? You have so much on your plate. Where do you make the time?
I have a lot on my plate, and I didn't really prepare very much. I read a little bit. I have a good memory, so I can remember things, which is very fortunate. But I want to just be myself, and so you have to be yourself. Johnny Carson, he was himself.
Look, I wish I had the energy to laugh more heartily at this. And this is funny. This certainly is funny, because all it does is shine a light at what an insecure puke Donald Trump is. Just the weakest of weak, while trying to convince the world, MAGA world especially, that he is a strong man, that he is an alpha man, that he's focused on the things that impact the world. He's going to change the world. Yet he's hosting award shows, mocking Jimmy Kimmel, while doing the same job that the lowly Jimmy Kimmel does. It's just a lesson in how to not act like an asshole. Whatever Donald Trump does, just don't do, because you come across as a weak, insecure specimen, if you want to call him a human being, just the lowest of the low. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. I wish I had more energy today.
President Trump is out with a new Truth Social today on your decision to run again as a Democrat, and the president is saying, oh, well, next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Attempting to bribe a federal official is a crime. It's a felony, punishable by up to 15 years in prison. And Donald Trump just admitted on Truth Social that that is exactly what he did. At the very least, he was trying to set up a quid pro quo with Henry Cuellar, the criminal Democrat congressman from Texas, the man who is now pardoned by Donald Trump. And now we're learning the same thing I said last week, that this was an attempt to get Cuellar to switch parties, to be a Republican, or at the very least not run for office again. That's what this pardon was intended to set up. And Cuellar announced like he's going to run for office again, and as a Democrat. And Donald Trump is just announcing his crimes on Truth Social, which he is immune from, because the Supreme Court saw fit back in 2024, the summer of 2024. I believe it was on my birthday, I think. No, that was the debate. It was a few days later. The Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump has almost absolute immunity from anything he does while president, while in office. This is 18 U.S. Code, Section 201, bribery of public officials and witnesses. And I just want to let you know, in case you're like, oh, well, maybe the congressman's not actually a public official. The very first lines here are, for the purpose of this section, the term public official means member of Congress, and then they list a bunch of other positions. And that's there's no other way to look at this post from Donald Trump on Truth Social, which I'll share with you right now. And again, you know it's going to be a banger when it looks like this. Which side does it go on? Which side does it go on? Whichever side it's on, the entire post will be here, and we'll highlight the tiny text for you to follow along. Can you imagine? Donald Trump starts it. The Democrats under the crooked Joe Biden administration, who always use extreme force and jail time to destroy their political opponent, wanted to put Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife Imelda in prison for 15 years, which I predicted these radical left lunatics would do. And they never stopped wanting to fulfill this evil request. The Dems mercilessly went after Henry with, I'm not going to read this entire thing, by the way, just the things the parts that I think are most poignant. And they never stopped wanting to fulfill this evil request. The Democrats mercilessly went after Henry with everything they had. They were looking to destroy him, his lovely wife, and 2 young daughters, and anyone close to them. When the Democrats overwhelmingly lost, 1.4% in the popular vote, Donald Trump, overwhelmingly lost the 2024 presidential election and power with it, they regardless did everything they could to keep going after the Cuellar family. The Dems were vicious at all because Henry strongly wanted correctly border security, all in caps, says the demented grandpa. And then down here, he gives his little flourish of his lies and shit. And then the daughter sent him a letter, blah, blah, blah. After reading it, I decided in the interest of justice, Donald Trump, the 34 felony convicted criminal, he loves justice. Instead of that, in the interest of justice and based on the daughter's loving request, that I would give Henry and Imelda a full and complete pardon. And this is where he admits the crime. Only a short time after signing the pardon, Congressman Henry Cuellar announced that he will be, quote, running for Congress again in the great state of Texas, a state where I received the highest number of votes ever recorded. As a Democrat, he's running. Continuing to work with the same radical left scum that just weeks before wanted him and his wife to spend the rest of their lives in prison, and probably still do. Such a lack of loyalty, he's talking about Henry Cuellar, loyalty for him, the president of the United States who pardoned him. So it is a quid pro quo. If I give you this, you must be loyal, he says. Something that Texas voters, capitalized for some reason, and Henry's daughters will not like. Oh, well, next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. President Donald J. Trump, all in caps. This is admitting that he wanted something in return for the pardon. This is a crime. This is also setting Henry Cuellar up to commit another felony. If he acts in the interest of Donald Trump after receiving the pardon, that's a felony too, under the same 18 U.S. Code Section 201. If you receive, it's equal to offering the bribe. This is not just quid pro quo, which is the term you're going to be hearing from the mainstream media as a possible quid pro quo. Oh, it seems like it might be. Some people are saying it's a quid pro quo. This is a fucking bribe, is what this is. Donald Trump used the power of the presidency, the power of the office of the presidency, bestowed upon him by the Constitution, by we the people, by we the fucking people, to bribe a sitting congressman so he would not run again, or if he did run again, he would run as a Republican. And crickets from the party of law and order. Henry Cuellar, of course, Henry Cuellar, who I said just last week, he might as well be a Republican the way he votes. He doesn't believe women are smart enough or well-intentioned enough to have bodily autonomy to decide for themselves their reproduction, to decide for themselves about reproductive health care. He doesn't believe that. He does believe in the rounding up of migrant populations in the United States. He is not a good representative of the people of his district. For whatever reason, I guess maybe to avoid being a felon, accepting this bribe, he's going to run again. And where did he talk about this? Yeah, you guessed it, Fox News. He went on with Fox's chief conspiracy theorist, disseminator, and promulgator of conspiracies, Maria Bartiromo, to talk about this. And it gets pretty good.
Have you considered switching parties?
Look, I'm a Democrat. I'm probably one of the most, if not the most, bipartisan Democrat. And as I told some of my Republican friends on the House floor, I vote better than some of the Republicans in the Republican caucus, and they agree with me. I just feel that, I follow the words of President LBJ, where he said many years ago, I'm an American, I'm a Texan, and I'm a Democrat in that order. And I think anybody that puts party before their country is doing a disservice to their country.
Okay, but President Trump is out with a new Truth Social today on your decision to run again as a Democrat. And the president is saying, oh, well, next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. He's talking about the fact that you are going to continue to work with the same radical left Democrats. What do you want to say about the president's Truth Social this morning?
Well, again, let me just say this. I was at church this morning with my wife. I prayed for the president. I prayed for his family. And I prayed for the presidency, because if the president succeeds, the country succeeds. And again, as probably the most bipartisan individual, I don't vote party. I vote for what's right for the country. And in fact, you know, when I got that rate by the Biden administration, they did it 40 days before a primary, where the far left had spent we're spending total about $20 million that we know of on that. So they did this right before that. So again, I am a conservative Democrat, but I will work with the president. I've reached out to his administration. I've told them, you know, name the folks, you know, Tom Homan, Christie, other folks that say, hey, can we sit down? I'd love to sit down and see where we can find common ground. I sit on defense appropriations. I sit on homeland appropriations. And if I can work and find common ground, then I certainly want to do that.
If you're going to do crimes, coming from somebody who's not a criminal and hasn't committed crimes, maybe don't broadcast them to the world on the social media network that you operate, that you own, that you created because you were banned from others after trying to overthrow the United States government. Maybe that. Maybe don't do it for the sake of the people you're trying to bribe. Because, you know, hadn't you done this, Henry could have switched parties. He could have gone along with the bribe, with the quid pro quo. He could have done that. But you broadcast that this is what the intent was, and now if he does it, he's subject to prosecution, as he well should be. So thank you, Donald Trump. I think the chances were probably pretty good that Henry Cuellar, at the very least, would have voted your way a bunch of times, like he's going to anyway, because that's who he is. But you wanted him to switch parties or not run. It's a nightmare of idiocy, of just fumble fucking your crimes and then announcing the fumble fucking of the crimes. Maybe not feeling well, Jesse, is more of a not PG YouTuber. Anyway, what do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. If you're from Texas, if you're from Cuellar's district, I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube.
It's the most toxic political culture, and it's not helping the American people.
But you contributed to that. You were out there pounding, insulting people.
Leslie, you've contributed to it as well with your own program. Yes, you're accusatory, just like you did just then.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene was on 60 Minutes last night with Leslie Stahl, again, part two, and she said a whole bunch of stuff that really pissed Donald Trump off, including that Republicans laugh at him behind his back. That's a good clip. I'm going to play that. And then also, she attacked Leslie Stahl when, you know, she's on this whole rebrand tour. And anytime anybody pushes back against her saying that she's changed, she says, well, I haven't changed. I'm the same person. But she also wants you to believe that she's changed, that she's a different person, that she sees the world more clearly now. She sees Donald Trump specifically more clearly now. And when asked about that, Leslie Stahl said, well, yeah, but you've contributed to this toxic culture in politics. And Marjorie Taylor Greene loses her mind. Well, you too. I'm rubber, you're glue. You are too, you're toxic. Not just me and you. Like a fucking child. But I'm going to wait for those, because just a few minutes ago, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social an attack against her because of what she said on 60 Minutes, and because he uses the presidency like it's a bully pulpit, a literal bully pulpit. He is now threatening CBS that if they have her on, if you don't have the only people that I want to be interviewed, I will level punishment against you using the force of the United States government, of the presidency itself. This is what he wrote. Again, it's a banger. It's really long. We'll put the whole thing up. The only reason Marjorie Traitor Brown, green turns brown under stress. Cool. Real. Funny and cool. Zing! You got her, Donald Trump. How will she ever recover from that one? Whoo! Man, thank God I am not on the receiving end of those kinds of epic burns from Donald Trump. He'd probably call me Dummy More or Dollar Douche. That's one from several years ago. Call me Copper Top or make fun of me for being a literal redheaded stepchild. Woo-hoo! I don't know what I would do. Ugh, these fucking idiots. The only reason Marjorie Traitor Brown went bad is that she was jilted by the President of the United States. Certainly not the first time she has been jilted. Too much work, not enough time, and her ideas are now really bad. She sort of reminds me of a rotten apple, capital R and capital A, so you know it's like a real rotten apple, I guess. Although that's not how capitalized letters work, Donald Trump. It doesn't emphasize importance. Idiot. Marjorie is not America First or MAGA because nobody could have changed her views so fast, and her new views are those of a very dumb person. Says the dumbest motherfucker who's ever held the office of president. And again, that's saying something because George W. Bush was the president. That was proven last night when washed up Trump-hating 60 Minutes correspondent, in quotes, Leslie Stahl, who still owes me an apology from when she attacked me on the show with serious conviction that Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was produced by Russia, not Hunter himself. By the way, it's the first time I'm reading this, so you're experiencing it for the first time with me. Totally proven wrong. Interviewed a very poorly prepared traitor who in her confusion made many really stupid statements. It's hard to tell who he's talking about. It's like reading a fucking confession here. My real problem with the show, however, wasn't the low IQ traitor. It was the new ownership of 60 Minutes. Here come the threats. Paramount would allow a show like this to air. They are no better than the old ownership who just paid me millions of dollars for fake reporting about your favorite president, me. Since they bought it, 60 Minutes has actually gotten worse. Oh, well, far worse things can happen. P.S. Oh, a little postscript. It's like he's writing a Civil War letter. I hereby demand, President of the United States demands a complete and total apology. It's in caps. You got to read it like that, right? Though far too late to be meaningful from Leslie Stahl and 60 Minutes for her incorrect and libelous statements. I think you mean defamatory. Libel is written, Donald Trump. But, why would I expect the President of the United States, someone who should have mastered his native tongue many, many decades ago, to know the difference between the meanings of words? I know it's a high bar, Don. It's a high bar. Libelous statements about Hunter Biden's laptop. President DJT. Well, this is what sparked this insane response. Not normal response. Not leadership in this response. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene explaining that Republicans not only talk bad about her and make fun of her, they also make fun of Donald Trump, the way he talks, the way he looks, the way he acts, constantly behind his backs, because they are also cowards. Watch this.
I think they're terrified to step out of line and get a nasty Truth Social post on them. Yes.
And they're watching what happened to you?
Yes.
Behind the scenes, do they talk differently?
Yes.
How?
Oh, it would shock people.
Well, let's shock people.
Okay. I watched many of my colleagues go from making fun of him, making fun of how he talks, making fun of me, constantly for supporting him, to when he won the primary in 2024, they all started, excuse my language, Leslie, kissing his ass and decided to put on a MAGA hat for the first time.
This is why none of this rings as legitimate to me, her rebrand, is that she spent the last how many years kissing Donald Trump's ass, grabbing the crotch of cardboard cutouts of Donald Trump, just worshiping at the feet of the dear leader, high priestess in the cult of Donald Trump. And now she's mocking those same colleagues who acted just like her in their worship of Donald Trump, in their ass kissing of Donald Trump. GTFO, you phony. Stupid ass phony. Now, to put a little fine point on this that she has not changed, this is Leslie Stahl addressing, look, if you want to have a mea culpa, if you want forgiveness, if you want to talk about how you've changed, how you see things differently, the first part of that is to ask for forgiveness and to acknowledge the things you've done wrong. You can't continue to talk about how the toxicity in politics is no good for America while not taking account for what you've done. And when asked about this, she attacked Leslie Stahl with the old "I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you" defense.
It's the most toxic political culture, and it's not helping the American people.
But you contributed to that. You were out there pounding, insulting people.
Leslie, you've contributed to it as well with your own program. Yes, you're accusatory, just like you did just then.
I know you're accusing me, but I'm smiling.
You're accusing me.
I am accusing you.
But we don't have to accuse one another.
I want you to respond to what you have done in terms of insulting people, yelling at people, and then saying...
I'd like for you to respond for that.
I don't...
No, you can respond to that.
I don't insult people.
You do, in the way you question, and you're accusing me right now.
What the hell was that? What was that? I'm really, this is a sitting United States Congresswoman with a storied, yet failing in the later part of her career, Leslie Stahl, someone who is just part of the mainstream media machine that wants to drum up drama, and I guess they did their job here with 60 Minutes, very likely will restrict the me talking about their video, providing commentary and criticism on it. They will ignore fair use protections under the United States copyright laws and try to restrict this video like they do every single time that I talk about what 60 Minutes does. I'll leave it there, and maybe I will, not maybe, I'm going to do it. That could be your cue to help support this work. For $2 a month, you can become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button, see what's involved. You can also go to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Supporting this work, there's a number of different things that it does. One thing that it does, as I hear YouTube videos click off and Facebook videos get switched off all over the world, is it allows me to talk about things free from any decision about whether it's going to be monetized or whether it's going to actually show or how many people are going to view it. When I have the support of the audience, I can talk about whatever I want, whatever you want me to talk about, whether 60 Minutes wants me to, whether CBS wants me to, whether Leslie Stahl, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Donald Trump want me to. You're the boss. Anyway, I love and appreciate you. Thanks for your consideration on that very much. Comment below this video if you have something to say. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, daily@dollemore.com is the email. I do want to hear from you. You absolutely do inform the things that I talk about.
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, you know, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And also, and I'll be involved in that decision too.
It is undeniable, self-evident, obvious, to put it very simply, that Donald Trump is running an administration of intimidation, of threats, of grifts. He's a scammer and a con artist who wants to enrich himself with the presidency. At every turn, we learn more about exactly the depths to which he will sink to make himself richer. I'm going to say this again. I've said it a few times over the course of the last few months. But the thing that Donald Trump is most insecure about is the thing that he claims to be constantly. Remember during the first campaign and even his first presidency where he constantly talked about how rich he was? That was because he wasn't super rich. Now, he never talks about how rich he is because he's actually a rich guy. He's actually super, super wealthy based on the fact that he has trafficked off the presidency, profited off the office of the president. So now he doesn't have to brag about being rich because he actually is rich. That's why he continues to brag about being a smart guy, because he's not smart. But he is absolutely threatening. He's using the office of the presidency to enrich himself and to silence people who are critical of him. And yesterday on the red carpet for the Kennedy Center honors that he hosted as president, he was asked about the deal between Warner Brothers and Netflix that was just announced, that Netflix has thrown their hat in the ring. They're going to try to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. And this has been an ongoing saga with CBS wanting to, with Zasloff in the mix, kind of surrendering control to the Ellisons and all of these different variations. And the reason this is important is because when you consolidate power in broadcasting, in media like this, one small group of people control the narrative. I mean, go watch the show Succession on HBO and you can get an idea of exactly how a narrative, obviously it's a fictional show, but it's based very closely to what's going on with the Murdochs over at Fox News. So the same thing, Fox News used to own Fox Entertainment and Fox Weather and Fox Sports and Fox News. And the family controls what gets broadcast and said on all of those. So it's a problem. So if a Donald Trump ally gets control of Warner Brothers, media and culture and entertainment also get infused with white Christian nationalism. White supremacy becomes normalized. It softens the brains of Americans. So it's a serious issue here. And Donald Trump is running a grift two ways here. I'm going to play this clip where they ask the question about Netflix buying Warner Brothers. It's two ways, which we'll talk about on the other side of the clip. How about that?
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And also, and I'll be involved in that decision too. They have a very big market share.
Did he make any guarantees to you about the merger if they do merge?
No, not at all. He came up. He was in the Oval Office last week. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great person, but he's done one of the greatest jobs in the history of movies and other things. He's got a lot of interesting things happening aside from what you're talking about. But it is a big market share. There's no question about it. It could be a problem.
Mr. President, you mentioned.
So here are the two ways. It's either to give his friend who has been lining Donald Trump's own pockets with money, contributing to the ballroom. Where do you think that money's going? You think that's going anywhere other than Donald Trump's pocket? Come on. It is certainly, he wants to give either CBS through the Ellisons a better chance of buying Warner Brothers, or if Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers, he wants them to also start filling his pockets with money. If you don't profit me, if you don't make me richer than I already am through me approving your deal's off because I have the power. I will have something to say about that. That's a very big market share. I will be involved in that decision. Not because he's an antitrust expert or lawyer or even an average intelligent individual. He's none of those things. He is a dipshit, to be sure, but because he wants to steer where this thing goes so he can level his threats and intimidate and pressure people to pay him. That is it. Elizabeth Warren tweeted this. There should have been a lot more to this tweet, but this gives you an idea of what some lawmakers who have their heads screwed on straight are thinking and understanding about what exactly is taking place here. She says, Donald Trump said he'll be involved in deciding if Netflix can buy Warner Brothers. Is that an open invite for CEOs to curry favor with Trump in exchange for merger approvals? She's asking questions, the answers to which she knows. Yes. That is what this means. And then it should be an independent decision by the Justice Department based on laws and facts. You see, that is why I mentioned the thing earlier about Donald Trump, one, not being even of average intelligence, not being a lawyer, not being an expert in antitrust activities. This is why we have an entire department of the Department of Justice, a department within the Department of Justice of people who are experts at this. People who at the Federal Trade Commission. We have organizations within government who do this. We don't need our dementia, our idiot president getting involved in something that he has no idea about, no expertise in. It's not even an inkling of logic that he holds. But if he's not involved, how's he going to profit from the deal? How is he personally going to make money off the presidency unless he's directly involved? Same thing with the Kennedy Center, the renaming of the Kennedy Center, the hosting of the Kennedy Center honors, the maybe next year he getting a Kennedy Center honor. It's all self-aggrandizement, self-profit motive. And we see you, Donald Trump. And after the midterms, we very likely will have a majority and you will be buried in impeachment articles. And if we get the Senate, we very likely can secure a conviction against you, a removal of you, and a subsequent vote to bar you from public office ever again. We could say bye-bye to the malign, malignant tumor on the body politic of the United States of America. I, for one, no surprise to you, I bet, would be very happy to see that. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it, whether that be YouTube or Facebook.
If you're a U.S. citizen, you have nothing to fear.
You'll be happy to know, as I say sarcastically, that the mush-mouth dildo with ears, Tom Homan, the border czar, is back on the scene. You might have wondered to yourself, where's the mush-mouth dildo with ears been? Why haven't I seen that guy? Well, it's because there was a bunch of bribery charges that were floating out there that the media was talking about. And then once the scene cooled a little bit and people weren't asking so many questions about the massive bag of cash in a kava bag that he accepted that's on tape, on FBI surveillance video in a sting operation, once it went away, he's back on the scene. They removed him from the conversation, but now he's back. And he went on State of the Union yesterday, typically hosted by Jake Tapper, traitor to the Republic. But he was on with Dana Bash, being asked a whole bunch of good questions, none of which were offered with good answers. And he tried to take the role of Donald Trump racism explainer, kind of like an interpreter for Donald Trump's racism. Oh, no, it wasn't racism. What he meant to say was... What he actually was trying to say was, even though Donald Trump has been on the earth for nearly 80 years, should be an expert in his mother tongue, should be able to communicate accurately, precisely, with an expert eye on communicating his ideas, right? Doing a better job than me, you would hope. And here is Tom Homan explaining that, no. We're not going in to Minneapolis to harass the Somali community because Donald Trump called him garbage. What Donald Trump meant to say was, watch this.
Mr. Homan, the president said very clearly this week that he doesn't want Somali immigrants in America. He called them garbage. Is that the real reason this operation is happening in the Somali community?
No, I think President Trump's referring to public safety threats as national security threats from Somalia and every other country.
Well, he didn't say that. He said
he's been clear from day one.
He talked about the whole community.
Well, look, I'm not aware what the President Trump was thinking when he said that, but I agree with President Trump. From day one, he has said, we are concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. He was put in the Oval Office to run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. That's exactly what we're doing. That's what American people voted for. So there's numerous countries that President Trump's, is looking at everybody that came up from these countries, make sure they're vetted properly. Some of these countries don't have the proper systems in place to totally vet somebody, so we don't know who they really are. So President Trump's taken upon himself in this administration to make sure anybody that came to this country illegally that we find, and those that came in through a vetting process that weren't properly vetted because they don't have the database and information to ensure they're properly vetted, that we're going to relook at those cases and make sure they're properly vetted.
You think Donald Trump, when he called the children of Somalis, many of whom are American citizens, when he called them garbage, when he called Ilhan Omar a citizen of the United States of America and duly elected congresswoman for a congressional district in the state, when he called her garbage, you meant national security threats and public safety threats. Is that what you mean? You fucking thumb with a face drawn on it? It got worse, if you can believe it. I'm going to bounce back in time. That was about 9:06 a.m. Eastern time. 4 minutes or so before that, he assured the American people that, look, if you're an American citizen, you have nothing to worry about relative to these roundups, relative to these kidnappings via masked secret police of Donald Trump in the streets of the United States.
With the new ICE raids in Minnesota, they are sparking widespread fear and uncertainty among people in the Somali community in the Twin Cities. Now, that Somali community in Minnesota is about 80,000 people. The vast majority are U.S. citizens or legal residents. So what is the reason for sending ICE there?
Well, look, we also know there's a large illegal Somali community there. There's illegal alien community, large illegal alien community there. You know, if you're a U.S. citizen, you know, you have nothing to fear.
So we went back in time. Now we're going back forward another 6 minutes, where Dana Bash didn't directly address that particular thing in the moment. She bounced back to it. But like, if American citizens have nothing to fear, why have we seen time and time and time and time again, by ProPublica's counts, dozens, if not hundreds of times, it is happening across the country, U.S. citizens getting wrapped up in? And this was his excuse to that, after, remember, saying American citizens have nothing to fear.
The Department of Homeland Security posted on social media this week that ICE does not arrest or deport U.S. citizens. Just the other day, I'm going to show you some video. There was an incident of masked ICE agents targeting a 22-year-old mother in New Orleans, chasing her to her home, even though she told them she was a U.S. citizen. And then there was this video, which I am actually going to show you. It was an incident in the state of Florida. Now, she was released once they found her driver's license in her car that said she was, in fact, a U.S. citizen. So if ICE says it doesn't arrest U.S. citizens, why do we keep seeing incidents like the one I just played, so aggressively pursuing people as they say they are lawfully in America?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, you know, I started as Border Patrol in 1984. Through my nearly 4 decades of work, I can't tell you how many times an illegal alien claimed to be a U.S. citizen. It happens all the time. But it's getting back to what I just said. Reasonable suspicion. If they have reasonable suspicion, stop and question somebody and shortly hold them and detain them briefly for questioning. If they have reasonable suspicion, they can stop. So do I think there's been 0 U.S. citizens that have been detained for questioning because the reasonable suspicion said they may be in the country illegally and may have an issue with that? But as soon as that questioning is over, if they're U.S. citizens, they'd be released. It takes probable cause to arrest somebody.
Oh, so we do have something to fear. And the reason we have something to fear is because the dildo with ears, with the mush mouth, says, well, the illegals are always saying they're citizens, so that's why we have to violate the rights of the citizens. We get it, Tom Homan. It's fascism, is what it is. If you get in the way and you resemble the enemy of the administration, if you talk like the enemy of the administration, even if you're a Republican, and you happen to have an accent or too dark a hue, and if there's too much melanin, you gotta go. Says the mushmouth dildo with ears. Yeah, I keep repeating it because I want it to catch on. Very transparent. Anyway, I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video. You should be afraid Not afraid, like petrified, you can't function with fear, but you need to be nervous. And I hope that nervous will animate you to action. I hope that nervousness will motivate you to organize, to go out and protest, to get involved in a campaign. We cannot rest on our laurels, as it were, and just make social media posts. Look, I know a lot of people who are in this space who just stay in their studio, just talk about the news, don't go out to protests, don't get in the face of federal officials, don't make noise. I'm not one of them. The reason I moved to Washington, D.C. was because of what's taking place now. So I can go out into the streets. Just about every single week, I'm out at something. You can do the same thing. I would encourage you to do so, and I would shame you if you don't. That's not far off the truth. But I do love and appreciate you, and I want to hear from you. You can comment below this video.
Would it be legal for police in Arkansas to kill suspected drug dealers on a boat in an overturned lake? The answer is no, it would not be legal.
It's like saying,
hang on, Senator. The answer is no, it would not be legal to kill.
Tom Cotton on Friday was on CNN. Tom Cotton on Sunday tried to clean up his mess and went on the Sunday shows. It didn't go well for him because on Friday he was embarrassed, so much so that he shared like a 25-second clip of a more than 6-minute interview. I think it was about 6 minutes. The only part that he could actually share in his own social media that wasn't sullied by the fact that he was frightened into submission because of his idiocy was that. Anyway, but I want to remind you about Tom Cotton, the moron senator from Arkansas. Arkansas, get it together with the people you choose to elect to high office. It has been a nightmare for decades. But I want to remind you that Tom Cotton, there is never a use of the military that Tom Cotton disapproves of, unless maybe it's humanitarian aid, unless it's in the act of providing aid and comfort to allies, then no. But if it's committing war crimes on the high seas, aye, sir, I'm Tom Cotton. I'm here to defend it. If it's dispatching troops onto the streets of the United States of America to beat and batter protesters, he's here for it. Remember, back in 2020, when Tom Cotton got the pages of the New York Times in this op-ed entitled, "Send in the troops. The nation must restore order. The military stands ready." He wanted American troops to be dispatched, deployed onto the streets of the United States to quell protesters who were exercising their freedom of speech protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution that he has sworn an oath to support and defend. Not only as a United States Senator, but also when he was in the military himself. And this op-ed was such dog shit, such fucking nonsense, that the New York Times, when you go to it right now, has this editor's note appended before you even get to the part where you're going to read it. They wrote, "After publication, this essay met strong criticism from many readers and many Times colleagues, prompting editors to review the piece and the editing process. Based on that review, we have concluded that the essay fell short of our standards and should not have been published." It was so fucking terrible, the New York Times says, "Oh man alive, we should not have published that. That was terrible. That was garbage." I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Well, Friday, this man who writes garbage that should never have been published was on CNN, and John Berman was holding his feet to the fire about his justifications for war crimes committed, murder committed by Pete Hegseth and, by extension, Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Watch this.
Let me ask you this specific question. Would it be legal for police in Arkansas to kill suspected drug dealers on a boat in an overturned lake?
Well, John, let me go back to the premise of your question. The Washington Post reported that Pete Hegseth had given an unlawful order of no quarter or no one left alive or kill them all. Pete Hegseth denied that last week, and it didn't deny that there was a second strike. Mitch Bradley and Dan Kane both flatly denied that yesterday as well, which some of the Democrats who watched that video and got those briefings confirmed. So that was what the Washington Post reported. That is a total and complete lie. I just respectfully disagree with my Democratic friends here. I think the problem they have is not with the second strike, it's with the first strike and every other strike on these boats. They think the entire operation is not well-founded. I just disagree with them. I think the analogy I would draw is not Arkansas police officers dealing with American citizens. If those boats were loaded with bombs or missiles headed for the United States, I don't think anyone would dispute that we had every right and indeed a duty to intercept them. But those drugs detonate like a bomb all across Arkansas and all across America, killing hundreds of Arkansans and hundreds of thousands of Americans. Our government has a duty to protect our communities from those drugs.
Senator,
that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Can I just take this in pieces? And we first answer my question. Would it be legal for police in Arkansas to kill suspected drug dealers on an overturned boat in a lake in Arkansas? Just answer that, and then I will address your question on the other thing.
John, the premise of your question is not well-founded. Criminals in Arkansas are not foreign nationals who are affiliates of a foreign terrorist-designated organization.
The answer is no, it would not be legal.
It's like saying,
hang on, Senator. The answer is no, it would not be legal to kill them in a lake. But let me ask a follow-up question. If they are terrorists, when did Congress pass the authorized use of force to attack them?
John, the reason why your question is not well-founded is like saying, would Barack Obama be okay droning an American citizen when he was president like he did to Anwar al-Awlaki over in the Middle East? These are totally different categories.
Senator, that's why I asked when Congress passed the authorized use of military force. There was an authorized use of military force against terrorists. I'm not saying what he did was legal or not, but that's what they based it on. In this case, when was the authorized use of military force to attack suspected drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela?
John, the president has inherent authority as the commander-in-chief under the Constitution to protect America using our armed forces against a foreign terrorist organization.
John Berman asking the same questions I've been asking for a week now. If you have a truckload of drugs, I said this last week, and police just murdered everybody in the van, just exploded the van, people would be outraged because that is not due process. What they're doing is an alleged crime, and crimes are dealt with courts, investigations, indictments, convictions, and sentencing. Due process. Right, Tom? You know about due process, right, Tom? Right, Tom? Trying to stretch my neck out like Tom Cotton's, because he's like a giraffe. It's as much as Donald Trump talks about Adam Schiff having a little pencil neck. Woo, boy, Tom Cotton. If he ever turned Democrat, Donald Trump would have a huge or a thin target, I guess. Anyway, Tom Cotton, all of my terrible invectives and jokes aside, tried to make up for his falling on his face on CNN. So he went to Meet the Press and tried to explain away the same type of thoughts and theories about this. And Kirsten Welker, to her credit, surprising enough to me, because she's usually wildly terrible at her job, actually had a good response holding Tom Cotton to account.
He continued to talk about, one of them took off his shirt as if he's trying to stunt him. But again, your colleagues, some of them saying, look, they were waving their arms around. Isn't it possible that even the act of taking off a T-shirt could have been part of an attempt to get attention for help?
Or it could have been an attempt to signal to another cartel boat to come pick them up and pick up the cargo.
But is there confirmation of what they were doing and what their intentions were?
For Admiral Bradley's decision, it doesn't really matter what they were doing. They were on that boat. That boat was still a valid target. They were not in a state of distress on a plank of wood in the ocean like subsequent survivors were. And when that was the case in October, our military did the right thing. It sent a vessel, it picked them up, it took them back to shore.
You're saying...
Yeah, well, I guess they could have been surrendering. They also could have been gesturing for another boat to pick them up. They also could have been gesturing for ice cream cones, Tom. They also could have been signaling to the aliens that control your brain that they needed to come getting picked up. It could have been that too. Why would you think it would be the most obvious thing, like signaling for help or, hey, stop, don't kill us, we're just fishermen? Well, oh, of course, it must be something else, some wild, unlikely explanation. Why go with the most simple explanation? Yeah, they deserve to die because it could have been a host of other things, says Tom Cotton, senator representing the state of Arkansas. Garbage arguments from garbage human beings. What do you think? I'm gonna have to tape this together now. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Those from Arkansas, I invite you to this conversation. Those reasonable people in Arkansas, a state in which I used to live, by the way, Madison County, Arkansas, as a child for a brief period of time, lived on a little farm with goats and sheep and horses. It was very bucolic. You can commit. I'm sick, guys. It is really starting to take its toll. I'm glad this is the last thing. Sound off in the comments. Let me know. You can do it on Facebook or YouTube. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I'm going to go take a nap. I was going to say be more like me and less like Tom Cotton, but you could find somebody else to be more like than me. You don't want to be sick, and, you know, I'm kind of a dipshit anyway. So don't be Tom Cotton. Be genuine and take care of one another.